And the world is still not quite ready to believe that the way their faces grew is not entirely genetic. You know, I can give a lecture to people on the subject, and they'll come up to me at the end and go, well, my son's got this thing. Well, he got it from me. I'm going, yes, you know, he might have got it from you, but he might have observed your posture and copied it.
Yes.
He's eating the same soft food that you eat because that's what's eaten in your house.
Yeah.
There's so many other ways this could permeate in, but we want to believe it's genetic.
Welcome to Take a Deep Breath. Today's Breathcast guest is Dr. Mike Maher. He's an orthodontist, third generation orthodontist, I should add as well. And today's podcast is all about the skull, teeth. Why do we have crooked teeth? Why didn't our ancestors have crooked teeth? What is going on? What is going on? Why are our faces changing? And the battle that Dr. Maher finds himself in now, trying to get this message out there. And I might oversimplify this a little, but do we actually need orthodontic surgery all the time? Or is there other reasons and other ways of fixing what's going on? And is there stuff we can do to prevent overcrowding of teeth and blocked airways and a whole host of other things? So I'll let Dr. Mike Maher explain all that. But this was really interesting. This podcast came about because of chewing in James Nestor's book, Breath. And the connection between breathing and chewing, and then obviously speaking to people like Patrick McKeown, author of The Oxygen Advantage. So it led me down this path to speak to this wonderful guy, Dr. Mike Maher, and he's a real passionate character. So I think you're going to really enjoy listening to our conversation, or watching if you're on YouTube. And stick the way through, because there's quite a lot of really good information in there. We get into mewing as well. And if you're listening and you can watch this, Dr. Maher takes control of my screen and starts sharing a couple of slides to kind of show some of his previous patients and what he's been able to achieve there. So it's a really interesting stuff. Before we get stuck in, a couple of quick messages from me. This podcast is brought to you in conjunction with our other YouTube channel. The other YouTube channel is called Hypnotherapy Unleashed. There's links somewhere. And if you're not already a subscriber, please can you pop over there and subscribe. My good friend Les is the hypnotherapist. I do the techie stuff, and we're releasing all sorts of hypnotherapies to help people completely free. So you're here, you're on Take a Deep Breath, you're watching something about breathing and chewing. There's a good chance you're going to find some kind of value in hypnotherapy. And you know, there's things for addictions, alcohol, drugs, procrastination, but also Les addresses anxiety, depression, stress, mindfulness. There's a whole host of videos on there. So after this, you know, you want to relax. They're really good first thing in the morning or last thing at night before you go to bed. And you can just pop it on your phone and have a listen. I've got some really nice music on there as well. So yeah, have a look at that, see what you think. If you haven't done so already, if you can pop on over also to Instagram, we have takeadeepbreath.co.uk. We're almost at 1,000 followers on there. So hopefully you can help us get to that 1,000 mark. And then last thing from me, I've put a little link down below to a MP3 store. And I've taken some of the top breathing exercises that are on this channel and just converted them into an audio-only, ad-free version. And for $4 or $5, you can go into this store, you can pay by PayPal or credit card, and you can support the channel. And in exchange for buying one of those or some of those MP3s, you get to keep them forever, ad-free. You can listen to them offline, on a plane, on a train, in bed. You can be with no Wi-Fi, no EMF, and you can be listening to your breath work that way if you want to as well. So yeah, down below the Take a Deep Breath store, yeah, you can buy those. So let's get stuck into this breathcast. Dr. Mike Maher, I've put all his particulars below, and I really hope you enjoy this fascinating conversation with this wonderful person. So take it away. Cheers. Dr. Mewing, thank you so much for being on the Take a Deep Breath podcast. I just a very quick thing from me. I had finished reading James Nestor's book about breath, and that's the main purpose of this channel. And there was a whole section on chewing, and I had no idea about chewing and breathing. I thought, how the hell do those two things link in together? And then I was being trained under Patrick McEwen. I was saying, Patrick, do you know anybody that I can talk to about chewing? And straight away says you need to get in contact with Dr. Mike Mewing. So here we are. So I wonder if you wouldn't mind for the audience, Dr. Mewing, just giving a little bit of background about who you are and what you do for a living.
Okay, well, so I guess I'm one of the few third-generation orthodontists. So my grandfather, he wasn't an official orthodontist. They were few and far between at the time. It wasn't a speciality at the time. So he did orthodontics, and he read the Western A. Price's book, and my father can remember precisely where they were when my grandfather told him about this book. My father then went on to become a very controversial orthodontist, asking questions that weren't appreciated. He was asking those very difficult questions people didn't want to hear. That I was inspired by my father, as from when I could talk, I was inspired by my father. He's an inspiring guy, and he asks those very simple, genuine, straightforward questions, the same questions I've still been asking, such as, why are teeth crooked? Seems quite sensible and straightforward. And you would imagine that the orthodontic profession, treating the majority of the populations in westernized countries, would have some type of answer to this. And I then went on to become an orthodontist. And this issue, why are teeth crooked, has become my focus. I've got concerns. Many of us, a large number of us have concerns, and these concerns are spreading like wildfire within the online community. But I think when my mission has been focused on this single question, why are teeth crooked, and what can we do to cure it? Not just make the teeth straight, but actually make people develop to have perfectly straight teeth, and all of their teeth, including their wisdom teeth, as all our ancestors did. So that's where I got off. And I've been doing this for quite a while now. And of course, I've seen the sort of people like Patrick McEwen arrive, and I've seen James Nestor and there's many others arrive. And it's all interesting to suddenly see people being interested in a subject that it seemed no one was interested in before. It was, no one seemed at all interested. And we had a clinic, and literally to get anyone to come and see us as a patient and then to commit to this really quite grueling treatment was tough work, Yeah. And it's interesting to see how this is, the tide seems to have changed. And I think this is the internet that has allowed this. And so I'm a qualified orthodontist. I went and did my orthodontics. I did dentistry in the UK. I went and did my orthodontics in Denmark, because I think they're one of the top 5 orthodontic programs in the world, and almost certainly the top program for growth, or they were at the time. They did some fundamental research in Aarhus in Denmark on how growth occurs and the rotational patterns. And also it was in Britain. So I could get away from being John Mew's son, and just to have people talk to me normally and, without some preconception. I've now been back in the UK for some 20 years, and I've been working really hard on trying to modify the causes of malocclusion. And that really means trying to modify the way people's faces grow. And this is where we kind of go beyond orthodontics, because most people who have a face are quite interested in how faces grow, particularly when you understand just how important this is for a good, healthy life.
Yeah. And you said something on a previous podcast. It was something like our identity is this, this image.
Well, it is, it seems that in the modern world, people really, really want to believe that the way your face has grown is all genetic. This is the image on your passport. When, or the driving license, it's the image that looks back to you from any mirror you look in. In a way, it is you. We talk about some biometric indexes, like we're taking fingerprints or we're taking eye scans or things like this. But, what's you, what everyone else recognizes as your biometric marker is your face. That's it.
Yeah.
And to suggest that someone's face hasn't grown completely ideally it's emotive. For me to say almost no one's face is growing ideally in the modern world, that is a controversial statement to make. And I think as I see all of these people arrive in breathing or the associated areas, I'm reminded of that comment that if you are one step ahead of everyone else, you're considered a genius. If you're two or more steps ahead, you're an idiot. And we're still idiots.
Right.
Because we're several more steps ahead.
Too many footsteps ahead right now.
Too many footsteps ahead. It's great to see people, catching up, people looking at breathing, people looking at these. But as far as I'm concerned, a lot of this is periphery. You've not got to the core of the problem. And it's almost as if no one wants to broach this really difficult core of telling the world, or the world having to accept the reason for so many problems, so many seemingly unconnected problems are because this structure has not grown perfectly, and a structure that has not attained its correct architecture is unlikely to work perfectly.
Yeah. And
hence several diseases or problems we could list.
Yeah, I can't wait to unpack some of this with you, because it's, like I say, it's a bit of a journey I've been on the last 6 months. I've been in the breathing journey about 3-4 years, but this piece is all very, very new information to me. And I've got a host of problems myself, so I'm very interested to kind of talk it through. And, as a viewer myself of this, it's, very exciting. So I guess the first question is, to ask you, why do people have crooked teeth then? And that might be a big question with a lot of answers, but could you summarize a bit of that for us?
The quick 5-minute summary. We've gone to the first information, the facts on the ground. Until probably about 10,000 years ago, everyone had perfectly straight teeth all the time, in every tribe all the way around the planet. Now that, I've got to make a small caveat, that's bar people who had syndromes or other pathology. There are some unfortunates, but they're usually just a couple of percent in the population. So there are going to be some people who have some pathological problem, and then I'm not talking about them. So everyone else would have all 32 teeth perfectly straight from birth till death, always. And, consider, I couldn't tell you if our ancestors had sleep apnea, diabetes, whether they were obese. Well, you could get some idea. They get blocked noses, many ENT problems. We just don't know these things because we've got no idea of knowing. But we know where their teeth were, or rather where their teeth still are, because you can go and see the skulls in the museums. Go up today and see the skulls in the museum. And what is quite clear is they all had perfectly straight teeth, and all of their teeth. Now, then make a little, you imagine also of all those more indigenous peoples. So you're going to talk about some people walking off the Serengeti, or out the Brazilian rainforest, or the Australian outback. These people stand up beautifully. They have beautiful physical form. They have beautiful facial form. They have a big, wide smile with all 32 teeth. So that includes their wisdom teeth in perfect alignment. Never seen a dentist, never had orthodontic treatment, and they don't have to wear retainers at night. And of course, what's interesting they have more in common, or they look more similar to our ancestors than we do. And, that's hard scientific fact. You can't get away from that. So when you look in the orthodontic literature, they have, apart from that small percentage of pathology, they've got no idea how malocclusion has arisen, either, position of the jaws or position of the teeth. No idea. And some of the explanations I've seen, well, I've seen fairy tales that hold more validity than some of those explanations. It's just, it's make-believe. It's difficult because you're trying to validate a system that you're using already. So you're trying to retro-validate the system you have, which is never a good scientific position to be in. Now, so we've moved. So what has changed from our ancestors' time to our modern era? What are the likely factors? Well, there seem to be two main factors for the general form of the face. And the general form of the face has seemed to be affected by us moving from this incredibly rough, hard, tough, low quality diet across to this extremely high quality diet. I mean, well, a high quality, but extremely soft, calorie rich diet. It would not be difficult for me to get 500-700 calories in a drink like that, marshmallows and some cream, full fat milk, sugar, syrups. You could pack that in there, couldn't you? And then how much masticatory effort, how much chewing am I going to do? None.
Zero, yeah.
Now, if we'd gone back 10,000 years, how easy was it to get hold of 500, 750 calories? Pretty hard work. I mean, with the exclusion of things like maybe some fat, that's fairly easy going to get, But as a general rule, they have to work hard, and you can see this from their teeth. You can see they wore their teeth down heavily. Now, I'm not suggesting we go back to that era, but that is, you need to know why. And, if you look at anthropological or archaeological textbooks, they're talking about malocclusion is reduced function, reduced effort, reduced usage. We talk about, use it or lose it. And, I've got a very big jaw muscle, and I've got a very strong jaw. So are the two related? Well, most likely. And how do you get strong jaw muscles? You chew. So that's half of it.
Yes.
The other half seems to be us getting blocked noses. So if you get a nasal obstruction, and I don't know many children that get through their first year without 1, 2, 3 nasal obstructions, usually lasting a day or maybe even 3 days. So you're getting these nasal obstructions at a young age. Now, you either drop your tongue, separate your lips and open your mouth, or you can't breathe. So all of those that survived have dropped their tongue, separated their lips and opened their mouths. That starts out of necessity, obligatory, and it often then becomes a habit. So, and that's very clear from the evidence that, really you hang them out. You watch someone who gets a stroke. Somebody gets a stroke, hang that time their mouth open, that face lengthens. Yeah. And this is someone who could be 80 years old. They're no spring chicken. Their growth has happened. Their genes have done their thing. And all of a sudden, one side lengthens. So what I'm suggesting is that we hang our mouths open with weak muscles, our face will get longer. It's not rocket science.
No.
Fairly simple. And if your face gets longer, then it's going to be shallower and narrower, narrower and shallower. But what you're doing is you're reducing the cross-sectional area. So the cross-sectional area reduces because you've only got so much face. And as you stretch it, you reduce that cross-sectional area. And the most important point here is just where the tongue, the teeth, and the airway is. And if you're reducing this area, then you risk affecting your airway. And for most people, breathing is the most important thing they do. And this is where we link over in our interests.
Yes.
And of course, as your face lengthens, you reduce the cross-sectional area here, you come up with a number of ways of compensating. So, and remember, it's very important to remember that this process started, when we started farming, you start getting a little bit of crowding on the lower front teeth. It seems to accelerate in the sort of 1600s, and then the Industrial Revolution accelerates greatly. And then the last 100 years, it's really been going off the board. But, you're talking about a good 8,000 years when people were coming out with fairly straight teeth, although they weren't such good structure as our ancestors 10,000 years ago. And it seems to have accelerated in the last couple of hundred years, markedly. And I think that we've reached a sort of a precipitation point. And what's happening is that as the airway gets so constricted, first, everyone is now leaning their head forwards.
Yes.
Okay? Great little bit of research done by Peter Vig. What he did was he blocked people's noses. Yeah. So this is your students. Usually, there's the workhorse of researchers, some students. So he got some students. He put those water sort of swimming clips on their noses. So put the water clips on the noses, and he had a mortarboard on their head with a plumb line, so he could see what would happen. So the first thing that happened, as you block their noses, the first thing that happened is they opened their mouths. Common sense, got to breathe. Second thing that happened, it hit their head right. Because if you open your mouth, just try it at any point, sit there, open your mouth wide, you can feel it, it constricts a little bit here, it's a little bit uncomfortable at the back of your throat, because your tongue's gone back. So the next thing they did was, that's comfortable. But that looks a little bit stupid. Yeah, remember, we're a social animal. We nearly always, we keep Nasian, Begonian down here above Nasian. They keep these two in a vertical. Yeah, so they're above each other. That's what we do. And I think, social animals need to do that. Otherwise, you're looking to stuck up or to, push over. Now, that means that what you do is you go 1, 2, 3, and you move your head here because you're maintaining this level, and then you move your shoulders around because you want to maintain your trapezius, the big muscle on the back, on a level plane. Okay, because muscles work best on a level plane. So what you're doing is you're going from this. Now, does that look familiar?
Very familiar. Yeah,
it's
sadly
too familiar, particularly in that sort of school children aged 6 to 12. That's that classic range. Before puberty gives them a punch up the backside to close your mouth because you look stupid. You become self-aware at puberty. So it's these two factors make the face get longer. As the face gets longer, lots of people are holding their heads forward. Then they do another thing. So you can place your tongue in a number of comfortable positions so that it can rest and function if you're short of tongue space. So once you reach that precipitating point, you've got to place your tongue in a new position because, you've got to breathe, you've got to function, you've got to do all of these things. And it seems that there's 4 or 5 different places where you can place your tongue. And these will give you the different types of malocclusion. So we talk about the different type, we talk about a class 2 malocclusion, a class 3 malocclusion, anterior open bite, tongue coming through. These are different patterns. And what it appears to be is that there's you tend to get certain patterns of malocclusion in certain parts of the world. And of course, people have now said, that must be genetic. But it seems to be a secondary thing rather than a primary thing. So you've got, and that's fine, medicine's about understanding the process. really trying to understand the process. And of course, if you don't know the cause, then you don't know the pathological process, how it works, and then you're not really going to fix it and cure it. And that's what we want to do. We want to cure malocclusion. And of course, here's the kicker, really, that if you have conventional orthodontics where they're trying to push the teeth into position, then you're going to have to wear retainers for the rest of your life. And I don't think that's necessarily good for you, but it's a demonstration of the fact that you're not treating it. You're not actually correcting it. We can move teeth. We can move teeth. We're going to put them into a position where they look pretty and hold them there. And that is basically orthodontics. I mean, there's no evidence that there is any health benefit from straightening teeth.
Really? Wow, I didn't know that.
No, there's no evidence. It's done for
it's purely aesthetics. Yeah,
aesthetic reasons. I mean, my concern is that sometimes when you do orthodontic treatment, you can actually cause the face to drop down. So we call it a downswing. The downswing is when your face drops down. And that's what I'm saying has happened to all of modern society. And I'm saying that sometimes orthodontic therapy can be retractive and it can pull faces down. And it may be related to extractions, but I see a lot of cases who didn't have teeth taken out where the face comes down. And this is the big controversy, because of course, then you're worsening the underlying problem. And of course, there's a lot of talk about banning retractive orthodontics. The problem is people don't really understand what types of orthodontics are retractive. We talk about extractions and non-extraction. Yeah, there's some evidence that retraction orthodontics can be more retractive, but I've seen lots of non-extraction orthodontics that have been very retractive. So all we need is debate and discussion. That's all we're asking for. My big thing is a debate. I've been asking for, I first published an article. If you Google it, it's Mike Maher, Black Swan, in the British Dental Journal. And it was just challenging my profession for debate on why teeth are crooked. And that was in 2009. We are now 2021, 12 years later. And, nothing's changed. I think that's the basics of science, is to have engagement. And if you're not going to have engagement, where's science gone? Where's the scientific process? I've got genuine concerns, a lot of concerns. Retractive orthodontics could potentially be damaging people's health quite badly. But there's no, we need to start with a debate on the cause, because then it moves forwards. And once you understand the cause, you'll realize just how many of the significant building blocks of orthodontic research are in the wrong place. And in a situation like that, how much of that research is valid? And then if that research isn't valid, how can you engage in all of these separate debates about the separate worries, like, whether retractive orthodontics leads to a downswing, whether that downswing causes forward head postures, sleep apnea or sleep disordered breathing, ENT problems, scoliosis, jaw joint problems. Those are all fascinating questions that need to be answered, and those are my concerns. But you've got to cover some groundwork to get to those concerns. And simply asking why are teeth crooked seems to me a very good question to ask.
And over the 20 years that you've been back in the UK working, what's the trajectory of the health of the people you're seeing? Is it just stayed at a constant bad? Is it getting worse?
No. I think this is getting worse every year. I mean, that's the reason you're all getting more interested. There's two reasons I think people are getting more interested. First of all, we have the internet. And that's allowed this dissemination of knowledge in ways we could never have before. You have no establishment controlling the choke points anymore. I mean, it's laughable how many times my father had to apply to get research published. He's got like 20, 30, 40 times. How you get over a 10 or 20 year period to get some articles published. I mean, it's just mind blowing. But of course, and that was an absolute chokehold. If the profession didn't want an idea to come out, it wasn't going to come out. That was it. Now, well, you don't need to go to publish something in a scientific journal. Put it on YouTube. Put it on Facebook. And in a way, if it wasn't for YouTube, I don't think I'd have never got this message out there. I've been sitting here in my clinic doing this for, I was doing this. I started doing these types of treatments in 97. And so that's well over 20 years ago, near 25 years ago. And no one knew about it. And people weren't getting choice to come and do this sort of thing. And having, the internet has helped enormously. But going back to your question, has it got worse? Yeah, I think it's getting markedly worse. I think that when my father was doing these treatments 40, 50 years ago, we lived in a much better environment. Some examples, if you've seen the curve of the amount of hidden sugars or not so hidden sugars in our diet, the sugar consumption per head in the population going up like this. Now, every easy calorie you have means you're not going to have a tougher calorie. So a tough calorie would be eating celery is the example, isn't it? Tough calories.
Okay.
Yeah, you're chewing away and you're actually losing calories faster than you're gaining calories. All right, those are tough calories. So you're doing a lot of work with your muscles to gain the calories. Now, sugar, or so I say a glucose syrup, would be the ultimate example of an easy calorie. So easy calories are what we're heading towards easy calories, aren't we? Because the sugar's going up, sugar consumption's going up like this.
Yes.
As long as you don't put weight on, as long as you can have a constant weight, then every easy calorie you gain, you have one less hard calorie, which means the amount of work you're doing with your muscles has decreased. Okay, so that's one big change, and you can see. The other big change you can see is just this whole emphasis on standing up straight. Because most of what I'm saying is boiled down to stand up straight and shut your mouth. It's not a new idea, really, is it?
No.
But it's, where was we?
So things getting worse, and then
yeah. How things have changed, how the ground has moved. You see, we always think about the ground being still, but it's moved. The sort of jokes comedians would get away with 20, 30 years ago. You go back and see, someone was saying this the other day, you watch Little Britain now. Some of those jokes, shouldn't say those jokes. So the ground's moved. And the ground's moved in many ways. But I remember when I was at school, if I was walking along, hands in my pockets, thinking about doing whatever, and I passed a teacher, you would get around the back of your head, stand up straight, boy, hands out your pockets, hands behind you, and you'd stand up like that, walk along. If you were anywhere close to a teacher or close to where you might run into teachers, or of course even prefects, given a little power, they'd do the same thing. So you literally 50% of the time you had that, algorithm running in the back of your head that was, keep good posture. When you sat in the class, when some teacher came in, you tried. What would happen to a teacher who did that now?
Be straight out, wouldn't they?
Straight out. Straight out. No, yeah. And you see kids just wandering around like that. I saw a shot, because we've had lots of views of classrooms recently, given that they were closed down due to COVID. And of course, you're seeing in the background, they have a classroom scene. And of course, I'm looking at all these kids sitting there like on the chair. What's going on? And I'm thinking, even when the BBC's filming them, they still can't sit up straight.
Yeah. It's a forgotten thing.
It's just being thrown out.
My girlfriend's from Poland, and I've got a terrible posture. I've been working on it for a couple of years, but that's kind of my default, and I'm really struggling with it. And I've been to therapists, and she's saying that when she grew up, her mum would give like the broomstick, and it'd have to go between the arms if she saw her slouching, and she'd have to sit up straight. And it was just a known thing. And she goes, it was the same at school. And we're in our mid to late 30s, so it's a bit more recent than I guess where we are now, also a bit further back. But I do get a sense that that's stopped now, and it is more acceptable to slouch. And I remember when I first started my first office job in kind of 2004, I thought I was being cool sitting in the chair like this, like an absolute plonker. And I remember people saying to me, that's going to do your back in. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It doesn't matter. But here I am now, sort of 15, 20 years later, really struggling because of this thing where I didn't sit up straight. So, that's interesting. So things are sadly getting worse from what you're saying. So the food is getting easier.
I said, I'm just thinking of this. It is in the Spanish orthodontist. When I'm giving a lecture, I show a slide here. I'm just wondering if this is, I'll do, do you want me to do a screen share? I'll do
yes, please. Take control.
So let me just do a screen share screen. I'll do screen one. Actually, if I do I'll do screen one because I've cleared screen one out. Share.
Yeah, that's changing. There we go.
Then I'll go file. Display settings, swap presenter. Okay, so this is a slide I show how things seem to be changing. And this interests me. So we're taking here my estimation of orthodontics and the progression of orthodontics. So we're assuming that people are 12 years old at the onset of treatment. It seems that comprehensive orthodontics started in the States in about the mid 80s. The average patient is now 46 years old. In what we were used to call the developed world, so the Western Europe, Japan, New Zealand, Australia, they seem to start comprehensive orthodontics about in the mid 90s. There's a slight reason that we tend to be using removable appliances before then. Then what we were used to refer to as the developed, the non-developed world or the developing world. They started orthodontics, it seemed to be in about the mid-noughties. And we had that big thing with extraction versus expansion swing in about the late 90s, probably due to my father, although no one would like to admit that. But he went on national television in Britain just warning of retractive orthodontics and how extractions can be a lead to that, which is an interesting story. Now we see this sudden increase in adult orthodontics that seems to have swept up in all of these countries in the same type of staggered pattern that seems to be going on. And of course, the big question is adult orthodontics being driven by increased awareness or relapse? And the same thing could be asked for child orthodontics. Because, is there this progressive change in incident? Are we getting much more and more orthodontics occurring? And of course, I talk about it, we talk about the way sleep apnea or OSA was never mentioned in my whole dental training. And, I qualified in the early 90s. No one mentioned it, apart from how it can cause congestive failure. It can cause problems in people with congestive heart failure, which is completely different. Yeah. And I remember Harold Chapman telling my grandfather that if you didn't have, well, I don't remember, I heard, if you didn't have 2 millimeters between all of your upper front teeth at the age of 4, you were going to have problems in the future. You never, ever see that now. Well, I don't say never see that now. I never see that now. It's crazy. You see crowded teeth. So that's 2 millimeters in all of those gaps, what 5 or 7 millimeters, depending how you're measuring it, just not there. Plus a reduction even in that if you've got crowding. And then, with this rapid rise in the number of people who are having orthodontics, even when I went to train, we were talking about 30% of the population having orthodontics. We're now talking about something like 60% of the population having orthodontics.
Wow.
These are rapid changes. Is it because people are more discerning, or is it just because there's more work to be done? And then with adults, we seem to be doing this once, twice, or even 3 times. Can't be good for you. And then I often use this image here. So this image is of Spandau Ballet. Now, what's the relevance? Well, I was the lecturer in the States, and I thought, due to facial downswing leading to sleep apnea, well, I'd say basically sleep apnea itself, would reduce the life expectancy of 10% of people over 60 years old, who are currently 60 years old, by about a decade, about 10 years. So I made that comment in the States, and when I talked to some of the doctors associated with breathing afterwards, they all said to me, Mike, I think that's a little bit of an underestimation, don't you think? And that even shocked me. So you've got now this problem that I think is a symptom of a downswing in facial form, same causative process of crooked teeth, suddenly going from non-existent to one of the biggest killers in an amazingly short period of time. But the worry is not these guys, because these guys are 60 now. Spandau Ballet, this image was taken in 1982. That makes them 60. And the real problem is that they all look slim. Facial forms are quite good. And I know they're a pop band, so it's going to be a bias group, but just try Googling 1980s and beach. See what you see. There's a marked difference with then and now.
Really?
So what then is going to happen to the kids alive today?
Yeah.
That's the real big issue. Because I see so much more malocclusion. And then when I talk to my dental colleagues, they say they see relapse everywhere.
Really?
And yet, what's the interesting thing, when I talk to my dental colleagues, I'll say, well, you must have some older patients who have got dentures, who can leave the dentures out for ages, then put them back in again. Well, hang around. So why are the orthodontic cases relapsing, but the people with dentures aren't relapsing? Or you see on teeth, you see where the teeth have worn against each other, and they're constantly wearing in that same point for decades. So they've not relapsed. It seems to be just these kids after they've had orthodontics. And of course, and then, it's this idea that it's more than just teeth. And of course,
sorry. Go ahead.
No. But it's almost because it's only been teeth that we've got such poor research. We don't know what the causes are. Well, I think I know what the causes are, but my profession doesn't seem interested in finding out because it's just teeth.
So I want to touch on the profession in a second, but before I do, this relapse that you're seeing, is that because we haven't fixed the root cause of, they have the work done, but then they go back to eating the soft calorie, easy calorie food and the mouth breathing potentially as well. So that's just causing the problems to continue. Is that really what's going on?
At all. In fact, often you'll reduce tongue space in doing it.
Right.
You may, if the system, when we talk about the system being retractive, I think one of the big points is that, as we covered earlier, your muscles, these are a massive importance in directing the growth of the face.
Yes.
And if you put an appliance, so you put a fixed appliance on the top, did you ever have fixed appliances?
No, nothing like that.
No. Well, if you put brackets on the top and brackets on the bottom, what will happen is the teeth start to move. And then the teeth are controlled by this bit of wire. Now, the teeth are controlled by this bit of wire. Whenever you try and bite together, you'll be biting, and it's not going to bite together nicely. And I notice this. If I get someone coming to see me who's got brackets in their mouth, I put my fingers along the lines, along the occlusal plane, but further back. I put my fingers on and I'll ask them to bite together. Now, when I do that, you can see my fingers going out. Yeah, the whole thing bobs in.
Yeah.
I've got strong muscles. I've chewed a lot of gum. And I put my fingers like that onto someone who's got fixed braces on, no power. You can feel there's muscle there, but they can't engage it, and the body won't let you engage it because you're only touching 3 pits of teeth in certain points. You risk causing damage if you engage your muscles. Right. And so that's what I think is the main reason we're getting facial downswings. We're from orthodontic therapy. And yeah.
So the establishment, so let me have a crack at this, and then please correct me if I'm wrong here. Is what you're, I guess a lot of what you're kind of talking about here is stuff that really people can't make a lot of money from. Let's chew properly. Let's eat good food and chew properly, and let's breathe through our nose. Let's make sure we're using the gums, the jaws properly and working up those muscles. But it's hard to make a lot of money in that industry if that's what you're advocating. Could it be as simple as that? And so people just don't want to know because actually,
So I have appliance systems. So I've got I've got example appliances here. Clip this into the roof of the mouth. But what I'm trying to do is make feedback loops. So if people drop their jaws down, it's uncomfortable. So I'll make more space so they can breathe out their nose by widening the top jaw. That's a controversial subject. Then we make feedback loops so that if they do drop their jaw down, it's uncomfortable. And over time, we build up patterns of, conditioned reflex responses. My classic example is if I'm driving in my brother's car, I'm frequently putting my foot down on the floor pan as if it was a brake. Now, I'm doing that because I'm a little bit worried about his driving. But if I couldn't drive, I wouldn't do that. That's because the instinctive nature of me driving makes me want to do that. Now, that's what I'm trying to build in these kids, these reflex responses, these conditioned reflex responses. So as soon as they go to drop their jaw, they think, I'm not going to do that because that's going to be uncomfortable. Yes. So they keep their mouth closed. That gently builds up the muscle tone here. It holds the tongue higher up on the roof of the mouth, encourages them to bring their lips together. But, I can't make someone keep their lips together. This lip taping can help, but it's just for them. It's not them doing it.
Yes.
I can't make someone put their tongue in the roof of the mouth. Making space in the mouth, that sure helps. Making people raise their mandible, that sure helps. But I'm not able to do those things for someone. I can't do their homework for them. They've got to do this themselves. And so we've got a treatment, and we are, now how do I put this right? We are reputed to be gaining the best changes in facial form ever achieved by anyone else on the planet at any time in the history of medicine. Of course, I can't say I am, because no one will show me their cases. No one will compare with me. So how can I demonstrate that I am getting the best changes in facial form? But I've got to do this by changing an individual. I've got to get inside their head. I often describe them, if like in the film The Matrix, you could have gone clunk into the back of their brain. Yeah. That's all I'd need to do. No more. That's it. But if you could do that, you could upload French, and you could upload further maths and some physics and chemistry. The entire history of the entire works of Shakespeare. If only life was that easy. And you can't do that. But, it is hard to change someone. Yeah. Really hard work. My classic comment is, who makes money, a dietitian or a liposurgeon? Because one drives a Ferrari and the other a bicycle. Yeah. And what's more, and this is the worst bit, is when the state or the hospital or someone's having a meeting, who do they invite? The guy that brings in millions of bucks a year, or the person who, is almost expendable.
That's so sad, isn't it? So
that's
I guess
how it is.
This is the question then. How does this change? Because that's the thing, isn't it? Because obviously your father was working in this, you've been doing this for 20 years. Is it just a slow progress of, we've got YouTube now, you've got 200,000 subscribers. Is that the way it starts to build a snowball traction?
I think in a way, it's like interviews this and interviews go on, but we need to bring this to a head. We've got to have a point in the sand where it's going to change things. Yes. And this is the point, because the suggestion from quite a lot of people is that quite a lot of orthodontics is retractive, and that's actually bad for your health. So, when you've got a medical section of medicine that is making a lot of money doing something that is potentially, or, they don't want to hear about the risk that it might be potentially damaging. They don't want to have to change because they've got a business model. You've got all these professors of orthodontics, and what are they going to do if this changes?
Yeah.
I could easily say, without fear of reproach, that the vast weight of quality research published in respected peer-reviewed journals clearly demonstrate that malocclusion is almost entirely due to the environment. Maybe with some genetic flavors, but almost entirely due to the environment. And we're treating it as if it was almost entirely genetic. And when that penny drops, well, it's not going to be pretty, because it's I worry about this myself, because it's I didn't mean to be confrontational. I'm not here to be rude to people. I'm not here to antagonize people. This isn't what I set out to do. I set out to try and get answers. I wanted the truth, and I seem to be stuck in dogma. I mean, one of my phrases, the truth, the whole truth, and no dogma. And I get so many people. I mean, if I go to meet my dental colleagues, they know I'm a charlatan. It's well known. I'm a charlatan. I talk absolute nonsense. I've got no evidence to back me up.
Wow.
And then they won't engage with me. I try and have a conversation with them. No, we're not talking to you. You're a charlatan. No, there's no point talking to charlatans. And that's, when it hadn't been for YouTube and these things, that's the way it would have been. The classic issue, I'm going to an orthodontic meeting, and you have to be, God, thick-skinned for me to go to these meetings, because what my father has gone through, but I'll be at a meeting, some guy walks up to me and he goes, "You, what are you doing?" It gives me some rudeness.
Yes.
And I then, I've learned, in my training how to cushion. I said, "Yes, sorry that you must think that. And I'm really upset that I've come across in that way. Now, could you tell me why you're upset?" And then I wait and I listen, as you're supposed to do. And then I'll say, "Okay, well, my big question has been, why are teeth crooked? Don't you think it's really important that we find this out?" And yes, a non-committal response. And I'll say, "Well, because the evidence suggests that this is the genes and the environment, and you're treating it as if it was genetic, and that's against the evidence." To which point this person will go, "You're impossible to talk to," and walk off.
Wow.
And I'm thinking there, sorry, well, what went on there? How did that interaction occur? And then I go into the lecture theatre, and there's my father on the front row, right in front of the speaker, and sometimes a speaker, I've seen lectures given about my father and other colleagues about them, and where they'll put images of my family home up to try and demonstrate that we're ripping patients off. I mean, and then Dad will sit there, and I remember him actually going up to the lecture, and he will always go up and politely shake him by the hand and say, "Look, I'd love to have a conversation about this sometime." And you can see the lecturer going, "Oh my God, is he going to cut my hand off or something? The guy must be so angry." And no, Dad, it's so calm. And he goes, "Look, could we have a chat about this sometime?" Because then he'll send an email and another one, and they'll never respond. Never come back. Absolutely suggest he's a charlatan, right, him sitting there, and then never actually ever engage in any, constructive conversation about it.
Yeah. Incredible. I think, it reminds me of a Stephen Covey quote or story about the people are going through the jungle or the forest, and they're chopping the trees down, and they're kind of going in one direction, and they're chopping the trees down. They're getting quite efficient at doing it. And then one guy decides to climb a tree to the top to look out. He goes, "Guys, we're going in the wrong direction. We need to go over here." And it's like, "Yeah, but we're really doing a great job of chopping these trees down." And it just reminds me of that a little bit. It's like so much emphasis is going in this direction now. And you're at the top of that tree going, "We're going the wrong way, guys. We need to turn around and go this way."
The medicine is littered with a history of never being able to do a 180. It's great at doing a 15, 20, 25 degree turn. Medicine can do that, but it can't do a 180 degree. You know, what are going to happen? We're going to admit we were wrong? Going to have to pay someone back?
Yeah.
Oh, or someone's going to have to get sacked. Oh, I can't have that, you know. So, yeah, we don't do it.
Well, looking at the success of what's going on with your YouTube, and granted, I'm new to your work. You know, you've got a following, and you know you've got some big videos on there, and some big views, and we're going to link to it here as well, so people can find it easily. What I'm keen to explore with you now a little bit, if you don't mind, Dr. Mew, is what can we do now? Because I know you've got a process called Mewing, and I've seen a couple of videos on it, but I would love to know, what can I do? What can other people do that are watching this if they want to start trying to correct some of these issues?
Okay, well, again, age is a big precipitating factor.
Okay.
So I think I'd please highlight Prevent Crooked Teeth. So go to the website, Prevent Crooked Teeth. It's a must do. If we go back in time to times we didn't have so many problems, there were a lot of lessons to be learned. You know, one of the big exercises I give to people is the mealtime exercise. And it's this secret special exercise, mustn't tell anyone. It is, so we do it in situational position. So you take a position that's situational, yeah? So you remember yourself to do it. You know, it's like getting in the car, you remember to drive. Maybe a bad example, but you know, you have certain positions. It's like when you see your teacher coming, you stand up straight in the old days. So what we do it at the mealtime, because that's the most important thing. We want to teach people swallowing and to use these muscles correctly. Yeah, and when we talk about the positions of the teeth, more than the shape of the face, swallowing is really important, as is then breastfeeding and preterm intubation. You know, these tubed down premature babies, I think, are causing a lot of problems, but that's a debate. And tongue ties and these, types of things, and baby-fed weaning, baby-led weaning. So trying to get people to delay introducing solid food for their child as long as possible. You know, breastfeed or even bottle for as long as possible, and then introduce the hard food. Yeah, those are all methods of trying to prevent or reduce the problems in the first place. And those were all just naturally done in the past. And those can be very valid for trying to prevent problems occurring. But sorry, I'm going around in circles here.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, it happens all the time. So going back to rewinding, actually, to start your question again, because let's start back, because that was
no worries. So I guess the question here is, based on everything you've spoke about today, what sort of action can we take now? So if someone's watching this now, what are the sort of activities? What is mewing? What are some of the things that we can take away after watching this and start to implement in our lives to help us?
Cool. Well, you've got to look at what age group you're in. Okay, so if you're in that very young age group, you're in the under 4 age group, that I think we can really make massive differences, changing the way people develop. So we're talking about breastfeed longer. If you can't breastfeed, then bottle feed longer, but delay the introduction of solid foods. Get kids to stand up straight and shut their mouths. Chew hard food, even get chewing gum. From about the age of 4, most kids can take chewing gum. They swallow a bit. It's not the end of the world. I would highly recommend anyone, or in fact, everyone should support the campaign Prevent Crooked Teeth. It's a really important campaign to support, because this is what we're calling for. We're saying that simple public health messages could make a significant difference in how people grow. You know, the exercise we routinely give to the kids under treatment here is the mealtime exercise. This is a situational position exercise. So what we ask them to do is elbows off the table, sit up straight, eat with your mouth closed, chew your food properly, don't speak when you're eating. And the only thing we add in that is new is a chin tuck when you swallow. And, you know, having some conscious thought to pause before you swallow to do the chin tuck, because otherwise you're going to forget. Then when you're older, clearly mewing, which is, you know, we're mixing a lot of myofunctional therapy together with some common sense ideas. Yeah, I've just, you know, I've trolled the world. I've met all these different people trying to pull out. My favorite phrase to people is, what is the low-lying fruit of what you do? What's the simplest thing you can do from your perspective? And then I put all these things I've got from people together, and I didn't christen this mewing, it's become christened mewing. The problem with mewing, 2 points to remember. If you've got jaw joint problems, be very careful of getting into mewing, and don't do too much chewing. That's really important for people. And I give a couple of tests, so look out for the pinky tests and the dangers of jaw joint. You know, learn to measure the jaw joint, so you know what, if you've got problems with the jaw joint, and keep an eye on that. And that's what I worry about some people with mewing. The other thing is, if you don't have tongue space, a lot of people, if your face is significantly downswung, it's your jaws, your dental arches are very narrow, or if you've had teeth taken out, and there's a high probability you really lack tongue space to the point then you may cause problems if you get into mewing. But basically, mewing is learning to use these muscles properly in your mouth and building up the right ones, knowing which ones, particularly the back third of the tongue, you know, because I think in our effort to, so I mentioned earlier on, Peter Vig talked about blocking the nose, and what happened? Yes. As you lower your tongue, you lower the back third of the tongue. And your hyoid drops down. And of course, what this is a piston. So as I raise my tongue up, so I relax myself, I raise the tongue up, your whole body sits up. It's not just your mouth's closing. It makes a difference in the whole body and the body posture. And of course, where I cross over with Patrick McEwen greatly is that he's helping to keep noses clear. Now, that's vital if I want to keep their mouths closed and their tongue up. Because you can't do that if you've got blocked nose. Yeah. So you know, we cross over on that, and, you know, he's been very helpful. You know, I've learned a lot from him. And, you know, it's not everyone, I wouldn't say, it's not that it's not a cure-all, it's not everyone's going to put their dedication and effort to achieve that. As in, not everyone's going to put a dedication and effort to mew or to stand up straight. However, under 7, things are very different. If you're less than 7 years old, you can learn something which can become a habit for the rest of your life. And it's much easier under 7 years old. You know that old Jesuit phrase, give me a man until he is 7. No, give me a boy until he is 7 and I will give you a man. Yes. And that has a ring of truth in it. And it's, you know, power of suggestion at a young age is very powerful. Now, I think over the age of about 25, you're going to struggle to gain, you know, significant facial. So many mewers want facial changes. They want that aesthetic improvement. Clearly, I'm trying to, yes, it's a great hook to get them going, but I'm looking at this from a health perspective. I say a healthy face is an attractive face. That's what you're attracted to. Yes. You know, Darwin's idea of mate selection is you're going to be attracted to a certain person for a certain reason. And you're attracted to someone who's healthy because you want to mix your genes with someone who can demonstrate that they've grown well. Yeah. Okay. So when you take apart that word attractive, you're really meaning healthy. That's what it is. So one of my phrases is that your face is the CV of your health. You're out there walking around displaying, hey, I grew well, or I didn't. So that's what attractiveness is. Yeah. So we're reviewing these coins from different angles. We're coming in, we reach the same point, but I'm coming from the health perspective. All these mewers are coming in from the attractiveness perspective. Over 25, it's very difficult to shift this bone. And that's the main bone, because what's happening is this is happening, all right? Well, you can move your mandible I'm doing it. It's not hard to move your mandible around.
Mm-hmm.
What's hard is moving the doorstop,
Right.
the maxilla. And of course, if you move the maxilla up and forwards, your mandible looks good. So you've got a length of mandible. Whereas if your maxilla drops down, and let's say I only bite here, I've got less chin.
Mm.
My jaw is weaker.
Mm.
It's weaker because it's just angled downwards. There's no real difference in length. I don't make jaws longer.
Mm.
I move the maxilla up and it just hinges up.
Right. So can I make a change now at 40? Is there stuff I can do, or is it a bit late now?
Yes, you could. If I cut the nerves to your jaw muscle, your face would drop like a stone on one side. So I can make a change. Ipso facto, concrete knowledge that we could do that. Can we make it go the right way? Well, I think I could if we really worked hard, but it's going to take quite a long time because you're going to change slowly. And the problem is right now, your whole facial structure was formed by your current posture and function. And it's acting as a reminder of that function and pattern, because it's now that your current function and posture are the most comfortable functions and posture that you can make, because they're in the structure that they're housed in the structure that was designed for that posture and function. So you're a creature of comfort.
Yes.
And you're not going to change your comfort position easily unless you get significant change in structure, or you have some form of reminder, which is all my appliance system, what I do in my appliance system.
Right.
Okay.
And with me, I'm tongue-tied. So if I had that dealt with, would that make a difference? And has me being tongue-tied till 40, has that created some problems potentially? Do you see that?
Okay, tongue-tied, fascinating area, and it is controversial. My father remembers a previous episode where we were all focused on tongue ties, and he remembers an episode my grandfather told him about when we all got obsessed by tongue ties.
Right.
So and that's kind of the value of being a third generation orthodontist.
Yes.
Sometimes get these things back. No doubt. I mean, I'd be fascinated what's causing tongue ties. Some people tell me we get them in some other animals. Why suddenly we've got this explosion of tongue ties going on. Undoubtedly they can be a problem, undoubtedly. But then I see so many tongue ties that have been corrected that then look worse afterwards.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a lot of them. So, and I've seen the goalposts move in the tongue tie world. So everyone was, just cut them. Then, oh no, you've got to do it with those. It became this debate between the lasers and the pincers, the scissors. Then there came this debate about that you've got to do post-operative exercises. Then it was pre and post-operative exercises. And then you've got to select the right case. And this makes me think what's happening is you're all seeing, every time you see the relapses, you decide to change your method slightly. And then you see relapses from the new method, so you change it slightly. I see that pattern. And rule of thumb I've come about is if you, as an individual, are going to make enough effort to change and improve the situation, so, do the stretches, then the tongue tie releases can be fantastic. But if you, as an individual, are going to do sod all, as most children will do, then waste of time.
Really?
Waste of time. Clearly, the best is to do within 2 weeks, when there's, when before babies are born, there's very little, they have an immature immune system, and they get very little scarring. They did this experiment with notobiotic mice, where these mice have no bacteria. They live in a cage and there's no bacteria. So what they wanted to do was split them into two halves. So they clipped the wings. They took a hole punch, clip, 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 in all the half the group, left the other half group, started the experiment, went back later on. And when the experimenters came back to look at the mice, they couldn't tell them apart because their ears had grown completely, perfectly back with zero scarring. Anyway, so the idea is you do it with a very young baby, snip them instantly, then put them on the breast, and they have to function correctly on the breast.
Right.
So that's the ideal age to do it. Do it young, because you're going to get minimal scarring.
Then when you say scarring, are you talking about underneath the tongue scarring, or some other scar? Right, gotcha.
Yeah, well, the scarring. So what I see is I see kids with tongue ties. I've sent them off to have the tongue tie released. They come back, they look great. I review them 3 months later, and they've got this great big line of scar tissue that's clearly contracted. Because scar, you see these sort of battle wounds on these gnarly old people. They shrink.
Yeah.
Well, scarring shrinks
to
close the wound. And you've got a scar here, it'll shrink down. And well, what the whole purpose you were trying to do was release the tongue. Well, if it shrinks back down again.
The tongue's all tight now because of the scarring.
But again, the people, so the adults I've met, because I deal with quite a few adults or young adults, and the ones that have had their tongue ties released and have really pushed it, they claim it was one of a great life experience. One day I'll probably have my tongue tie snipped just to report on it.
Are you tongue tied?
Not particularly, no.
No. Okay. But
in a way, I just want to know.
Yeah.
All this talk, it's interesting having all this talk. But at some point, you've got to actually put your foot in the water
to experience it. I see what you're saying. Gotcha. Yeah, because just on a very slight tangent, I was with my dentist a few months ago, and she says if you don't get your tongue tie cut, you're going to lose your 2 bottom teeth because it's pulling. And it's constantly pulling at the gum, and it's getting smaller and smaller. So that's why it's something I'm thinking about. And I was, it's not just it'd be a nice thing to have. I don't want to lose these 2 teeth.
I can't comment. I don't know that. I've not. I mean, 1 or 2 times I've heard that from people. I've yet to see an example of that occurring.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, yeah. Anyway, slight tangent in my world. So, what is mewing then? Can you just define mewing for us? What is that? What is that? For somebody who says,
so mewing is really learning to get your tongue on the roof of the mouth. It's trying to get a suction hold where you have your tongue suctioned onto the roof of your mouth, so that you exhibit better body posture. You have this pressure, constant gentle pressure moving the top jaw up and forwards. And you build your muscles up. So if you're really going to properly mew, you're going to do a lot of chewing. And it's a postural change in people so that they're exhibiting better orofacial posture. So it's improving the posture and the function. But clearly, my functional therapy is more focused on the function. Mewing is more focused on the posture.
Yes.
Because posture wins hands down. My functional therapy, what's his name at Stanford did this research, did a meta-analysis where they showed that there was a 50% reduction in sleep apnea and over 60% reduction in sleep apnea from my functional therapy exercises for adults and children respectively. So over 50% for adults, 50% for adults, over 60% for children. That's a major improvement from exercises. The problem with exercises is what happens when you stop them. There's the old phrase that a 100-meter runner, when he's unfit, he's just as unfit as someone else who's unfit. He's no better because time ago he did some running.
Yeah.
Was good at it.
Yeah.
If he's sat on his arse drinking beer for the last 20 years, he's unfit. And the same thing's likely to happen if you do myofunctional therapy exercises and then stop.
Right.
But of course, posture is supposed to be permanent. So here's something getting postural permanency. And whereas for myofunctional therapy, I've seen 1 or 2 cases where people have got significant improvements in facial form. And so if you're going to look at that as the sign of success, and it should be the sign of success, because if you understand what's going on, that's a sign of success. That is success. And yet I see thousands of mewers who improve their facial form. Across the board. I mean, I fall over photographs. People send me photographs all the time of, Tajikistan man who's got this great big mouth. Oh, I'm the man. And I hear, in the Balkans, lots of women, we've got to be mewing because people see the common sense in it. And it's all about standing up straight, closing your mouth. Anyone who's, you just, to assume a better posture makes you look better. I was fascinated when I was watching Jordan Peterson and his 12 rules of life. And the first rule, stand up straight. And the reasons he gives are fascinating. I could go 1,000 miles on all of the reasons he gives and really explore that. And there's a huge another tangent to validate this in a way strange concept, but it's going back to basics.
Yeah, yeah. And it
Stand
comes back
up
to this
straight with your mouth
attractiveness.
shut.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a reason. So I gave you the mealtime exercise. Every single person from every single culture that has tables and chairs that I have ever met enforces the same type of routine, as it's called good manners, good table manners.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, why? Yeah, because it's this function, yeah.
Because either that was magic and they all just came to this conclusion, or there was a specific reason they thought that was important. You know, I mean, if you want to bring your children up well so that they have good form and good health from that, then take some lessons out of deportment. Get them sitting up straight.
Yeah.
Have family meals where everyone has their elbows off the table.
Yeah.
That's what you want to be doing. I never
question that. I've always, because these are the things, you know, sit up straight, close your mouth, take your elbows off the table, but there was never a why given to me. So you know, so I just, whatever, I don't need to be posh. And then there's this other piece
you
around.
see, this was it. We didn't want to be posh.
Yeah.
It was a reaction to the class system.
Yeah.
The 1960s was this time when we threw so many things out. Many of those things needed to be thrown out. But some things didn't. Some things got thrown out with the baby in the bathwater.
Yes. Yeah. I can see
and that was a mistake. And we're going to suffer the consequences. I mean, there's no way to stop this now. This juggernaut of truth is carrying on because, you know, we're going to get to the point where sleep apnea is consuming the health of so many people. And people are going to want, why? We have no idea what really causes sleep apnea. People are going, oh, well, it's obesity. And people are putting on weight. Well, hang around. Is it that fat people get sleep apnea? Or do people with sleep apnea crave fatty foods?
Yeah, because they're not sleeping very well.
You have a bad night's sleep.
Yeah, you eat rubbish.
You crave those foods because your body goes into that survival mode.
Yes.
Survival mode is, look, get some calories on board because last night something terrible happened and we need those calories just in case that terrible thing ever happens again, which and the next night and the next night. And again, that's when I go, some of the called Jordan Peterson's comments were fascinating on that. Because in a way, you read in what he says and it ties in with that perfectly.
Wow.
But you know, what I don't want to say is so many things are related down to craniofacial dystrophy. This downswing in facial form that is termed craniofacial dystrophy, it's going to sound crazy if I say all of these things are related to it. Because most people have never heard of it.
You had some photos, I believe you wanted to share. There's some images. I'm conscious of your time, and I'm very keen if you wanted to share some bits. That'd be wonderful.
So let me do, when we go with breathing, okay, let me give you an example of what we're trying to do, how we're different from conventional orthodontics and what we're trying to do. So if I present that here.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
So let me swap slide presentation. Okay, so this is just a good example of the types of things we do. So this is Nathan. And Nathan, you can see we've changed how his face grew. Okay. Now, it's interesting. I've had a lot of orthodontists tell me they don't like this final result. And that's interesting. I mean, he loves it. And, you know, I've had a criticism of how this lip form ended up. And of course, that's interesting when I get those criticisms, because of course, I'm not making, I can't make these detailed points. It's not possible. He's got to change his swallowing pattern if he wants to improve that. There's nothing, I can't make that happen. what I can do is, we're early days in the science. I'm helping him to change. And if I want to quantify that change, we do this thing called a medical facial overlay, whereas you can see, I'll go back one shot, because what you want to do is you want to look at this bit here, which we call soft tissue nasation, and we want to watch this bit here, which is the tragus of the ear. And as we go forwards or backwards through this set of slides, just notice how those bits stay precisely the same. Mm-hmm. And yet, look at that chin point.
Yeah. Wow.
See how that's changed dramatically? That doesn't happen naturally. People tend to grow downwards. And if they've started growing backwards, they tend to continue. So they go down and back. And that would have happened to him. But of course, the important point here is these are just some arbitrary lines I've written on as an approximate representation of the size of the airway. Mm-hmm. But you see how as you move that mandible forwards, you're carrying that tongue away from the back of the airway. So you're pulling the front of the airway and the tongue away, increasing the size of the airway. So, you should have space for all your teeth, including the wisdom teeth. You should have space for your tonsils, adenoids, and everything else. And, a set of golf clubs if you can. That's normal. Everyone should be like that. That's how our ancestors were way further ahead than that. Way further ahead. And of course, we need, what we said, it's your health, it's space for your teeth, and of course also your appearance. The teeth should align themselves. And of course, this is the problem I have with the orthodontic community, because I get the teeth approximately alignment, and I ask the child to do the last bit of that, because if the child does it, it's likely to stay straight.
Gotcha.
Of course, my result is never as polished. I never get quite the American smile. And the orthodontists are looking at me going, well, you're useless. Well, what have you achieved? These teeth aren't perfectly straight. And look, on this lovely, attractive boy. Well, what they don't know, that boy, he didn't look as attractive to begin with. And of course, he's made that straight himself. Of course, they then show me a picture of someone whose teeth are perfectly straight. They don't look as good, and I'm worried they look better beforehand than they did at the end. But that's a controversial statement. However, what they're showing me is a result that wears permanent retainers. And I'm saying to them, well, what happens when you stop the retainers? It's going to look far worse than mine, because the teeth of this boy, Nathan, he straightened himself. And because he straightened them, they will stay straight. Well, you've done that girl's teeth. As soon as you stop the retainer, it's going to go crooked again. And where are you? Then where's the, it was all, we're not comparing the same things here. And my goal is this change in facial form, not aligning teeth. Now, in theory, this should be possible in everyone. And of course, when we talk about orthodontics being retractive, this is the type of thing we talk about. And I worry this happens far, far more than we're aware of. We're not even properly measuring it. People aren't even aware, the general public are not aware this can happen. And I just want a debate on it. And even showing these slides is controversial. And of course, that's Nathan's upper jaw. And you can see, it's not perfect. We've got a few spaces here. And the blobs there are something I put on. We'll take them off. I think we have already. But, it's pretty straight teeth. And I don't know, if we get room for the wisdom teeth, it might be nice. But of course, this is what I'm going on for. This is what I want to do next. And of course, her comment is I used to feel like I was constantly fighting to breathe, to sleep, to live. I felt like I was drowning in fatigue and brain fog. She says, now I breathe better and sleep better. I feel more alive, at ease, and have the energy to start living again. From Sarah. And that's a major change in someone who is not growing.
Yeah.
And of course, here's a mewing case. And you can see that's a major change. What's really interesting about this image is this image here was previously his after mewing image. When I first met him online, because he contacted me, I said, well, get a good image of yourself now, and then see what images you can find in the past. And he found a couple of images, and I could see what improvement he had made, but the previous images weren't good quality. So in fact, this image on the left represents a sizable improvement on where he was previously.
Right.
And then him to go on to have this, a complete change on top of that. This change, these huge changes that can occur in people.
Yeah. Wow.
And that just takes dedication. Youth certainly helps. But if I will, no, that's okay. So if I was to show some, I'm getting confused. Wait a second. Let's just.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
By the way, when you look at these pictures, it is shocking to see the differences. It really is, because I've not really looked at any of this, so it's incredible.
Yeah, but but it's controversial, isn't it? When I go to tell a mother that her child hasn't grown properly, what's her response?
Yeah, how dare you? Yeah,
how dare you?
Yeah,
and yet they'll come in and say her teeth are all over the place. Or they'll lift the child's lip like this, not washing their hands, pushing the child completely around, and go, "Look at those, they're terrible." Then I suggest her child's face hasn't grown properly, leave the room. This is the emotive part of it. And this is what held this all back. That's why I'm such a alleged charlatan, because no one will dig any deeper. They just come up to mental barriers whenever they try to look past this. And that's why I'm fascinated to see all these people catching up with me, the James Nestors, the Sandra Khan with the book Jaws. Clearly, Patrick was on his own specific path. But, they're all coming closer. These people are slowly coming closer. But there's still 4 more steps to make, 4 significant leaps people have got to make in their mind.
Yeah.
However, you've got so many young people now for whom mewing is this the way? And they're getting older by 1 year every year. And from when I first started this, there is a significant amount of them who are going to start having kids now. And that is what's going to push the change. So this young lady, this was just, I must catch up with some more photographs, but this was just the first significant phase of therapy. And you can see again how we're really, you see how that face is shortened?
Yeah.
And, we've made, so that was just part way through therapy. That's how she is. And that's how she, and this is a significant change in form. This is changing people's lives.
Yes.
She will have a different life because of it. And this boy here, he's particularly interesting. He wasn't such a, he is actually quite a dramatic case. When you lie it out like that, you can see how that chin has gone. You see his tongue's in his airway, tongue's out his airway.
Wow.
But what was interesting about him is I left him for, I think it was about 9 months with no appliances.
Okay.
So he's early. That doesn't look from an orthodontic perspective to be such a bad problem. However, he could have gone on to be significantly worse. As I put my comment down here, I would never get a board exam from this result. I'd fail. And yet, health-wise, well, it must beat most board exam results ever done. But and here's Freddie. So again, that is almost like he's grown exclusively forward. His jaw was too big, as you see from that image there. You see how that bottom jaw's too big, and I've let that jaw come forwards, but the top jaw more so. And of course, you could say we treat people a long time. Well, actually, the treatment's only 2 to 3 years long, but I ask them to wear an appliance at night afterwards that continues to push them forwards. And of course, there was Freddie just in that first phase of therapy. And I just threw this in to show how his teeth were at the end.
Yeah.
And again, so what we had with Freddie was 9 months, 10 months with no braces. So that his teeth have just straightened up like that naturally.
Yeah.
And of course, then I'm trying to remember her name, first name, anyway. And this was the younger sister of a patient that I was treating. The mother asked me if I could treat the younger sister. I think we got the teeth. No, so she wasn't very bad, but again, 2 to 3 years of treatment and then wearing a retainer at night for a significant period after that. So it's a 10-year interval.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people like this don't usually grow to look like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say that was a cost-effective treatment. I would have easily physically lost money on her treatment.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, as I used to do with basically all my treatments. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did this part-time and I worked somewhere else to pay for people to have treatment.
Yeah.
But I've turned the coin. I've now got this system. Here's what a dental stat. Again, no orthodontics, no teeth alignment. That all came in naturally. And, it doesn't look that bad here, but it could have gone on to be significantly worse. Of course, it depends what she's going to do. If you understand the cause, it depends what she's going to go on to do. And of course, we're doing some adult trials. I mean, we're getting some significant changes in facial form in people. It's early days what we're doing here on adults. As I say, people, I constantly am amazed. I'm constantly amazed when I talk to orthodontists and they go, well, you've got no evidence. And I go, well, what do you mean? I go, well, you've got no evidence. Your system is better than ours. The classic example, we had probably the most famous British orthodontist is Kevin O'Brien. And he recently did a blog post where he says, put up or shut up. Mm-hmm. So this is there's a concept that I've got to show these cases. And I've got to show cases, bang, 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 bang. And everyone's going to look at my cases and see if they're going to nod or wink or, maybe, they'll be let into the society. That's how it happens in orthodontics. And the problem is that they don't understand how far they have drifted from the regular rules of the scientific process. Mm. So, my grandfather interested my father, who made some interesting observations and created a treatment that, remember, back 30 years ago or 40 years ago was much more effective than it is now. And I'm expected to have an idea to make a treatment, design, make the treatment, then implement the treatment, research that treatment until I can perfect that treatment so that it can get straighter teeth than conventional orthodontics. Although clearly my role is not to get straight teeth. I'm trying to do something else. So anyway, now the problem is that, research is incredibly expensive, time consuming and difficult to do. And I'm supposed to do this on the side, sponsored by a business that losing money, or till recently was losing money, and then present my outcomes to the orthodontists to decide whether or not I've got straight enough teeth, which clearly is my objective. This is a very tall order to do. It's an incredibly tall order to do. No real decent research has been produced without university help. This is what their job is. I've got a university 20 minutes up the road, Guy's Hospital, literally you can take the train and it's 20-minute journey door to door. And I've written to them multiple times asking them to help me do some research. They are struggling. Every year they've got to find research projects for all of their students.
Yeah.
I know, having having done that type of program before in another country, yes, but the professors are, how can we find 10, 12 projects for the student this year?
Mm.
And they've been doing that for the last 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
And at no point can they consider saying, oh, well, hang around. Why don't you go and analyze Dr. Mew's results?
Yeah.
And compare both the faces and the teeth, because no one will ever compare faces with me. They'll compare the teeth. Because if you've got a system that's going to push the teeth into position, you'll get straighter teeth temporarily.
Mm. Oh, it's so frustrating sitting here hearing all your story, and I think fair play to you for carrying on. And obviously your why is to help these people, so you've got a really strong why that carries you forward. And otherwise it would have gone a long time ago. But obviously you see the results, and I guess I'm in my own little echo chamber when I'm in the world of breath. But what I see more and more, people like Ben Greenfield and all these biohackers and all this term that keeps coming out called ancestral health, or we need to go back to the way things are. And so you see, functional breathing experts, you see people talking now about getting correct daylight on your face and stopping blue light coming to you. And we need to go and take our shoes and socks off and go and touch the ground because we're not earthing properly. And on their own, these things sound very, very woo-woo and a bit crazy. But the more you spend time thinking about this, even though I've got a standing desk here, and as simple as we shouldn't be sitting all day, should we? And just in this weird position. So there is this movement of ancestral health happening, and I hope it catches the way it needs to with you, because the work you're doing, Dr. Mew, is incredible, and it really is.
Yeah, and what's interesting now that it's getting out on YouTube and my practice is growing, I'm actually in profit. Good. Finally. Good. Yeah, I mean, last year I actually managed to pay myself a decent wage, but I've sold my house and blown it. I've taken some early inheritance and blown it. And I sat here thinking, this is what I want to do in my life. I will do this even till I go bust. And there will be some patients in the world that will have been treated better.
Yes.
I never expected to get to the point. I never expected this recognition would occur. I never expected all of this would occur. I did it. And, almost looking back, maybe I was just young, stupid and naive for me to attempt to do what I've done. And the fact that it's been successful slightly astounds me. I didn't go into this to be, Dr. Mew, Mike Mew, the big Mewer, who everyone knows, who gets stopped in the bloody street. I mean, this is, wow. I mean, I go to Tesco's and, hey, Dr. Mew. Oh, yeah. That's a bit weird. I was in the High Street, on the pedestrianised section of Croydon High Street.
Yeah.
And this kid comes up on a BMX, and goes, hey, doctor.
The kids love YouTube as well, don't they? But the world needs people like you, and please keep doing what you're doing.
I know. Well, yes, I mean, there's big pressure to write me off. I've got now. Well, I did have 4 court cases against me. It now looks like one of them's just been dropped because it was, as I predicted, of limited real value. But some of these court cases, my professional body, the British Orthodontic Society, a charity, has referred me to my regulator with the absolute intention of getting me struck off.
Wow.
This is my organization that's supposed to look after me. It's thrown me out. And my defense in my hearing, they had to give me some hearing. And I was saying, look, you're not going to understand the allegations you've made against me until we've had a conversation, a debate on the utility, the cause of the problem.
Yeah.
And I said, well, hang around, because I know your charter. And you're a charity whose, was it beneficiaries as well? Beneficiaries are current and future patients. I mean, wouldn't you imagine that current and future patients would want you to engage in a debate about the cause? Don't you think, Yeah. What do I need to do? Get a poll done by a newspaper to demonstrate if your beneficiaries would want that. And yet they've gone out of their way to try and strike me off. Anyway, I've got, at the end of this year, I will be in court.
Really?
And I literally risk losing all that investment I've put in, all of this last decade and more of the hard work and effort. And literally, because now I'm in rented accommodation, so I'll be on the street.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear. This is crazy, isn't it? Crazy.
No, it's as predicted. You could predict this, and you could predict it. This is what happens when you go up against a established concept.
Yeah.
This is normal.
You hear about it a lot in America. People go up against big pharma or big agriculture, and then they get smited down. But it's not something you find in kind of the commonness of British discussion. It doesn't seem to be the same thing. But
in some ways, it's tougher here in Britain in this respect than it is in the States. But I know, quite a lot of people have come very unstuck from the authorities jumping on them. Due to YouTube and things, it's more difficult to jump on me and eradicate me without there being a noise about it. And, as this comes forwards, we'll try to make a noise, because it's people all I've been asking for is debate. All I'm asking for is a scientific process.
Yeah.
Again, go back to British Orthodontic Society. The scientific process is not occurring. And to really go out of your way to destroy the person that's trying to push the scientific process, because the truth is inconvenient. It's a shame. It's a shame this is happening. It's a shame I've got to do it. But you asked when things are going to change.
Yes.
Well, things usually change when you have that type of confrontation.
Yeah.
Because then it's no longer whispers behind corridors. It's no longer that subtle subversion, and suppression. And that's that's the hallmark of medical suppression is, just it goes on in the quiet, in the background. You never know it's happening. Yeah.
So hopefully this will bring things to a head for you a little bit.
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I didn't expect this. I didn't ask the British Orthodontic Society to try and jump on me. But you have to, there's a silver lining in every cloud, and they've actually now had to put themselves out there. And in putting themselves out there, we at least get a discussion. Yeah. I just hopefully it'll be fair, because at the moment I've got the opposition expert who's an orthodontist, and we've got the defense expert who's an orthodontist. What do both of them think of me? There's no experts that don't think I'm a charlatan. So how does that go down? Because the court is not interested in my opinion. Yeah. So I've got to be clever. Yeah. To be very clever to work out how I can get the knowledge into court. Because in your court, you're in these four walls, and the truth is only what's in those four walls. And the courts don't like to listen to much research, because the devil can quote the Bible. What they want is some nice experts to come along and say this is true and that's wrong. Well, that's people's opinions. Yeah. And if I've got two traditional orthodontists, because all the experts are retired orthodontists, usually who are senior consultants or professors, who are going to be absolutely down the line of, the real politic, the orthodontic consensus opinion. Yeah. So you think out the box. You do what you can. And the world is still not quite ready to believe that the way their faces grew is not entirely genetic. I can give a lecture to people on the subject, and they'll come up to me at the end and go, well, my son's got this thing. Well, he got it from me. I'm going, ugh. Yes, he might have got it from you, but he might have observed your posture and copied it. Yes. He's eating the same soft food that you eat because that's what's eaten in your house. Yeah. There's so many other ways this could permeate in, but we want to believe it's genetic.
Yeah, he's copying your sitting habits when you're eating, and he's not chewing his food properly, and I think the world is changing, isn't it? You know, like I say, this James Nestor breath book came out last year, and it just caught fire, didn't it? It's everywhere, and you know, and so chewing's now this thing that, again, you know, it came to me through this book. And I was like, I had no idea, but you know, now people are hearing it, and you're doing the great work on YouTube. So keep going. We're going to share this message for you. We're going to get it out there. We're going to get it on the podcast audio. It's going to be on YouTube. There'll be some clips of it. So whatever we can do, take a deep breath to help share your message. You've got
it's fundamental work. I mean, history will tell. You know, when we rewind the clock and look backwards, everyone will be. But you know, it's one hard step at a time. You know, but it's about, you know, I have a great life. Good. You know, and people would kill to have a life like I've had. You know, I can't complain. I've just, you know, had the most stunning, you know, experiences, life and everything else.
Yes.
Yes. I do have a tough time. It's difficult, but every moment, every day, hey, it's great.
Yeah.
You know?
And you're helping people, and often when they look at like studies of happiness, it's what are you doing to help others, to get out of yourself and help other people. And you're getting to do that.
Up and above that, I've had a great life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you know, you know, go out there with a big smile and people find you.
Yeah.
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 All right.
Dr. Mew, it's been an absolute pleasure and honor to interview and ask you these questions. And as I said, we'll share that message. Is there any last things you wanted to cover? Any last messages you want to leave us on?
We'll go and support that Prevent Crooked Teeth. Go and sign up to our YouTube channel. And if you want to ask questions, then go to the Craniofacial Action Group on Facebook, or if you're a professional, then you can go to the Orthodontic page or group, they're both groups, on Facebook. If you want to pose a question, go and, you know, if you're a professional, go to the Orthodontic page on Facebook, group on Facebook. If you're a layperson, go to the Craniofacial Action Group on Facebook. You know, start there to ask questions and, you know, support those groups.
Yes, we'll put some links below, guys, so you can find that sort of stuff as well. And yeah, absolutely. If you've not already subscribed, go and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well.
And then remember, stand up straight and shut your mouth.
Yes, and that's what we're going to title this episode. So, and I'm going to remember that myself. Dr. Mew, thank you again so much, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next Breathcast, everybody. Cheers.
Okay, cheers. Thanks much. Bye now.
Okay, thanks for watching. Take a deep breath. Thanks for watching our Breathcast. I hope you enjoyed the guest that we just had. Just a couple of quick messages. Thank you for sticking through to the end. Really appreciate it. If you enjoyed that and you haven't subscribed, please click that subscribe button and leave us a question or a comment, because it helps the Google algorithm. And it also means that we can interact and other people get involved and answer questions. So leave us a little question. That would be incredible. At the start, I mentioned our other YouTube channel, Hypnotherapy Unleashed. If you haven't gone over there yet, we've got a whole host of exercises in the world of hypnotherapy that can help you with addictions, anxiety, depression, and a whole other range of things that hypnotherapy can support with. So please go over there, and you might find some real value over on that channel. And we're really trying to grow that community at the moment. So if you know somebody that could benefit from that and you wanted to share that, that would be really appreciated. On Instagram, you can follow me at takeadeepbreath.co.uk, and we've got regular content there. And finally, in the link below, we have a breath store. So what is that? So we have taken some of our top videos. I say we, it's me. I've taken some of my top videos and converted them into an MP3 format, and for just a couple of dollars, $4 or $5, you can go to this little store. You can go through PayPal or through your debit or credit cards, all secure, legit, and you can buy one of our MP3s, and that way you're supporting the channel. But not only that, you get to keep the MP3 forever. There's no ads, there's no anything else going on, so you can listen to it on your phone, on the aeroplane when there's no signal, and that's yours to keep forever. So yeah, that's down below, and that's our breath store, which has got, I think, 8 or 9 different breathing exercises on there. We're adding more as we go, and that's it. So yeah, so thank you so much from me, and we hope to see you on the next exercise or the next Breathcast. And if you're finishing this right now and you're thinking, got a few minutes spare, I'm not sure what to do, then try one of the breathing exercises. Box breathing is a lovely way just to help slow things things down and relax us. You could do some alternate nostril breathing. Just go and have a look at the channel, look at the playlists and pick something for you. Give yourself a little treat. And we will see you on the next video. Thank you very much. Cheers.